The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners Live. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday evening. This is episode 290. So not too many episodes to go before we get to that landmark 300th episode. And what a fantastic guest I've got with me today for episode 290. One of the brightest, youngest, fastest rising stars on the South Wales scene, from the New Wave Academy, the Iron Cobra Shane Hooker. Shane, how are you doing? And thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, no, I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me on. Excited.
You're very welcome. And this has been a much anticipated episode and your first podcast interview, I understand.
Yes, first one. Yeah. So, apologies if...
You're going to be great. You're going to be great. You're going to kill it. You already are. But it's going to be a fun conversation for the next hour or so. We're going to be talking to Shane all about his wonderful rise on the South Wales scene, with No Mercy, Pro Wrestling Carnage, New Wave Wrestling, and of course we talk about New Wave Academy and so much more, everything in between, and all incredibly in less than 12 months. We're going to get into all of that. But if you want to get in touch with Shane, if you want to get in touch with the show, send us your questions, you can do. Simply send them through to us using your chosen device. They'll ping through to us and we'll do our very best to bring them up on screen during the course of this live interview. Of course, I'm quite proud. I've shined a big light on South Wales wrestling, or the wrestling scene in South Wales, quite a lot over the last year. I mean, last year I had Wild Boar on, Mike Bird, Elijah, and one or two others, Aluna Blue, who trains over in South Wales as well, a good friend of mine. And this year alone in 2023, I've had Bevan, the bastard son. He was my guest only a couple of weeks ago. Great guest. The main guy behind No Mercy Wrestling. I've had Bowler Armour on the show this year. That was just last month in February. Fantastic conversation with two great characters. Harrison Bennett was on the show in February as well. Wonderful guest. That was a real bucket list interview of mine. Great to talk to Bino there. And just a week after that, possibly the same week, I had Brendan White, Brendan White, the workhorse, the man behind New Wave Academy. I'll be talking about him during the course of this interview. And who could forget the Brilliance, good as gold. James Ellis was on the show back in January, one of my first interviews of 2023. And we got this guy here. And you'll understand why I asked this guy to be a guest on my show on Wrestling with Johners, because he is going to be he's already a breakout star. He's had some wonderful matches and opportunities in the last 12 months, and we're going to talk all about it. But the first thing I want to talk about is this match here. Coming up this Sunday, the 19th of March, if I'm not mistaken, from the Caerphilly Leisure Centre. And it's No Mercy Wrestling's first anniversary show, Sweep the Leg. And there you are in a match against somebody you know fairly well, Nico Angelo. But after the match was announced, Shane, it was announced in a separate post a little while down the line that it was actually going to be a championship match for the TNT Ultra X title, a title that Nico's proudly owned for quite a while now. And you're now going to be his number one contender. So we're about 5 days away from that show in Caerphilly. Nico Angelo, the TNT Ultra X Championship, 5 days away. How are you feeling?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm nervous for that one, if I'm honest. Obviously, Nico is somebody that I've taken a lot of inspiration from. Like, before I even started training, before even lockdown, when I was a bit younger, Nico was somebody that I watched quite a lot, being a smaller guy as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've wanted that match for a long time. And then the TNT Ultra X Championship being put on the line as well. It's just, yeah, that's a big one for me. So really excited for that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, gonna get battered, but
well, I'm sure. I mean, based on all of the research and the matches I've seen of your matches, you're going to give as good as you get to. And we spoke a bit off air, Shane, and I said that pretty much all of your matches, you've gone up against opponents different to you, maybe slightly larger, maybe quite a bit larger in some cases. But you've never really faced anybody of a similar style to you until this match with Nico Angelo this coming Sunday at No Mercy Wrestling. So it's going to be interesting because we know that you're an extraordinary high flyer, and we're going to take a deep dive into that very, very soon. But like I say, up until now, you've only faced wrestlers that have a different style to you. This coming Sunday, Nico Angelo, it's going to be like looking at a mirror kind of image of yourself, like when Spider-Man met Spider-Man in that meme. And it's going to be an interesting experience for yourself to face somebody, of that high-flying nature, similar to yourself, Shane.
Yeah. That's a massive compliment to be compared to Nico. But yeah, absolutely. Like, to this point, like we said, I don't think I've actually... Well, no, I haven't wrestled anyone that... wrestles in a similar way that I do. It's mostly a lot bigger people, or like grapplers, or that type of style. So it'd be a lot of fun because it's gonna be a good one, I think.
It really is. And sticking with this match, and when you first found out that you're going to be facing Nico at the No Mercy show, Sweep the Leg, that must have been a pretty cool reaction from yourself. And then to find out that Nico's TNT Championship, Ultra X Championship, is going to be added to the match. How were you feeling when you first of all found out you're going to be facing Nico Angelo, and then to find out that his TNT Ultra X title was going to be on the line? Was you freaking out ever so slightly, maybe?
Yeah. Well, when the match first got when No Mercy first told me about the match, obviously, first of all, excitement, because as I said, Nico's so good, and he's somebody that I've looked up to for quite a long time. And then again, like when the TNT Ultra X Championship got brought in to the mix, it was just like, just look at that.
A dream match.
It is for me, 1,000,000%. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful championship as well. And we've had a few people reach out to us, a few people watching us live, and we got one half of Act 2, Jack Knudsen, watching us via Facebook. Thank you, Jack. Yes, Shane. And I'll probably embarrass you a little bit here, but I think I've got your Auntie Maria watching. I'm so proud of your nephew. Love from Auntie Maria. So thank you for watching, Auntie Maria. Send more questions in. And we're going to get to more of your questions as we get through this episode of Wrestling with John. So keep sending them through, and we'll do our very best to answer them live on air. But for anybody that might not be too familiar with yourself, if this might be the first time anybody's came across Shane Hooker, and of course this is your first podcast, you've only been in the business less than a year, and we'll touch on that more. I do have a music video that I want to play, so let's just cue it up here, and this will perfectly demonstrate what this young gentleman is all about and what he was able to accomplish in 2022. And more importantly, don't blink while you're watching this video, because you'll miss some pretty extraordinary moves and action. Here we go.
Like I could deceive my own mind.
Wow, extraordinary. I must have watched that video back about 3 or 4 times in preparation for this. Just truly fantastic. But before we talk about some of the moves that are just completely off the charts that we saw in that music video, can you believe that you've achieved everything you've done just in the very short space of time that you've had? Less than 12 months. Like I say, your official match was almost 12 months ago. In fact, the next show at No Mercy will mark your first anniversary and their first anniversary all in one fell swoop. But can you believe that you've done so much and achieved what you have in just 12 months?
No, not at all. I started training towards the end of 2021, and I remember at the beginning of last year, the one thing I wanted to do was debut by the end of the year, and yeah, obviously, in March, I was put in the No Mercy pre-show battle royal, and then Iron Cobra tournament, and then New Wave, and then like other companies giving me opportunities, and I did not expect it in the first year at all, and things have just things picked up so quickly. I couldn't be more grateful, but yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, really, really is. And I just want to touch on that video, because what it really highlighted and demonstrated was, how, I mean, you would look at some of the action there and think that you've been in the business 5 years or more, and some of the actions, some of the moves, you're just so smooth, and it almost seems effortless, to be honest with you. And now I tried to make a bit of a list of some of the moves that I saw there, and I'm probably going to butcher any sort of attempt at describing what you did there. But one of your moves that you're famous for is the shotgun drop kick. Do you call it the soul breach or something like that? But
Yeah.
That's incredible, because you put all of your effort and passion and whatever else into that drop kick, and that's incredible in itself. Also, you do something like a one-handed somersault enziguri, like a one-handed somersault Pele kick. I don't know. Describe them two moves, because the shotgun drop kick I'm familiar with, but you just put your heart and soul into that move. But then the other move, I don't know what you call it. I probably butchered how I described it, but tell us about those two moves in particular.
Yeah, so the drop kick's a funny one, because when I first started training, and I was obviously looking to do some stuff like from the top rope, and one thing I always wanted to keep away from was a shotgun drop kick from the top, because I always watched it and I'd always think to myself, well, they just look like they're hurting themselves more than the other person, because they're taking a huge drop. So when it came to the No Mercy Battle Royal, somebody said to me, you should do something off the top. And I didn't really have anything. And then somebody said, do a drop kick. And I was like, and they were like, no, do a drop kick. So I was like, okay. So I thought to myself, if I'm going to do a drop kick, I'm going to make it look like as brutal and as cool and like they're taking the worst end of it on me, sort of thing. So I think that's where that's, and it just stuck, and now it's one of my favorite things. I love it. And then the Pele kick, to be honest, I don't have a name for it. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, I've never seen that done that way. I've never seen it done that way. I mean, how did you come up with it? I mean, you're very athletic, naturally athletic, stupidly athletic, I've got to say. But that is something unique. It looks great. But how did you first come up with that move, and to describe the move to anybody that hasn't seen it yet?
Yeah, so originally, that move I got from obviously another huge inspiration to me is Mark Andrews, and he does he'll do the knee slide and then the Pele kick. No, sorry, not the Pele, enziguri, and like that always gets such a huge reaction, and it's so simple. So I remember like thinking to myself, I wanted something like that, something like small that I can get in any match that will always get a reaction. It doesn't have to be huge. It's just something that will make people be like, ooh. And so I was watching that, and I did a lot of parkour when I was a bit younger, and I was kind of like trying to figure out my own version of that, and that's kind of what it is, I suppose. My own version, my own spin on Mark's version of it. So
yeah, it's definitely effective, and you do a beautiful running shooting star press, your moonsaults to the outside, your moonsaults to the inside, somersault planches, and two other moves. You do a fantastic looking 450, and I understand you do a 620. Is that right? Is that even possible? Tell us about the 450 and the 620, and when you realised that you can actually pull off those moves.
oh yeah, well so again, the 450 was something. Again, when I first started and I got into the Iron Cobra tournament and stuff like that, I didn't really have an idea for what I wanted to do for a finisher. And like again, when I was a bit younger, I taught myself quite a lot of these mental flips and stuff like that, and it was all because I wanted to get into wrestling. And so when it got to coming up, like, you know, I needed a finisher, it was just like, oh well, I can do these flips, so, you know, 450. I went up and I tried it and I could do it, and I was like, oh okay. And then so that stuck for the first half of the tournament, and then when it got to the final, I wanted to do something a bit more special, and then there was the 630, which is the 450 but with the extra rotation, and it's the only time. Yeah, it's the only time I've only done it once, because I don't want to do it all the time, because it's a scary one and it's brutal and I don't want to overdo it. But I remember I tried it and it was my first attempt. I did it and I was like, yeah. So yeah, I just think like doing those things from such a young age, like teaching myself, definitely, like when I got into wrestling, it made things a lot easier for like a moveset of just like, oh, I'll just do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But the fascinating thing about yourself is you're not just all about the moves. I mean, there's certain high flying, athletic, aerial artists out there, but you've developed this kind of babyface persona. I mean, you're a babyface all day long, if you don't mind me saying. Anyway, I think I'd hate it if you ever turned heel, but that could be interesting for the future for sure. That'd be unexpected. But you've got this babyface fire behind you, and you've got this fighting spirit, and like I say, you tend to fight performers bigger than you anyway, so you have to have this kind of babyface fire about you. But just to bring up some slides of some of your moves, an incredible moonsault from the top rope to the outside there. I think this might be a couple of shots from Slam Masters over the weekend, possibly yourself doing the 450 there. And of course, another moonsault into the ring there. Fantastic picture there. I think some of these pictures are from Blue Radical. So thank you very much. But I want to focus on some matches that you've had this year in 2023, and a couple of maybe pinch yourself moments, a couple of pinch yourself matches. And the first one has got to be this one here against Wild Boar, a guest of mine from last year. Fantastic guy, one of the best performers in the UK. And here you are in some pictures in your match against Wild Boar. In fact, there's that very drop kick that we were talking about earlier on, and phenomenal height that you get there for sure. And Wild Boar bringing you down there with a heavy sit-out power bomb. You know, Wild Boar got the win, but by the end of it, he was putting you over. I think that if there was any doubts before the match, or any lack of respect, I think he showed you at the end that he respected you as an individual for the fight and for the passion and for the match that you gave him. And for yourself, I mean, that was probably your biggest match up to that point. It might still be your biggest match. But tell us about that, fighting a UK legend, former WWE NXT UK star. And that match was a crazy match, but very big highlight of yours so far from 2023.
Yeah, that match was surreal. Like, God, when that first got announced, I was, yeah, very, very nervous for that one. Not just because of like the fact that he was in NXT UK with WWE, but he's just the man. Like, he's the man. And before I keep going back, but before I started training, before lockdown and stuff, I remember I must have been like maybe 15, 16. And I used to post like a lot of videos on Twitter and stuff and Instagram of just me doing really stupid things, like doing 450s off ladders and stuff like that. And I remember one time I thought, I don't know, I can't remember why, but I decided I was going to tag Wild Boar, Mark Andrews, and a few of the others. And at the time I was like, you know, it was a really difficult time, I think. And Wild Boar left a really nice message. And, you know, I've just looked up to him for so long. And that match, again, it was my best match, I'd say. And I learned so much from it. And although I lost, and I lose quite a lot to, obviously, in these bigger matches, they're always wins in my book, because I always walk away learning so much. I come out a better wrestler. And as you said, like, I was tearing up after that because we didn't plan that. It's after the match, he, you know, raised my arm and he whispered to me, stay in the ring. And he left, and I had that moment. And, you know, again, he's just a man. I can't say enough good things about him. And that match, I'm so proud of that one. But yeah, really
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Wild Boar works quite closely with the talent at New Wave Academy. So I'm sure he knows what an extraordinary talent you are and what a fantastic star you are for the future. And another individual that knows you very well and knows exactly how far you've climbed and what a bright future you've got is this guy here. Bronco Brendan White, we mentioned him earlier, was on the show a few weeks ago, and you wrestled him in the debut show for the Outcast Pro Wrestling, or the Outcast Club Wrestling. But I've seen highlights to that match, and I mean, Bronco, he didn't go easy on you, did he? And we spoke about kind of a lot of your opponents being bigger than yourself, but Bronco's probably one of the biggest opponents you've gone up against. I mean, he's a beast all day long. But once again, you showed that babyface fire. You came back strong. I think you surprised him with a lot of moves, and you in the end, you shifted him. You know, you did manage to get him off his feet and do what you do best. And he took all of your moves. But similar to the Wild Boar match, another tremendous match where by the end of it, you were the star.
Yeah. Brendan beat me up. No, in all seriousness, that was, again, another really fun one. I learned so much wrestling Brendan. Didn't take it easy on me, which I'm glad about, because I don't want to be, you know, I want these guys to, you know, do the worst sort of thing. I think, yeah. But I think, yeah, I'm really chuffed for that one. But then he tapped me after the match, and Wild Boar had to come out and make the save, because, you know, I don't know, Bren's got a problem with me, I think. I don't know what's going on there, but behind the scenes, in all seriousness, like, you know, Brendan really looks out for me. I can't say enough good things about him. A lot of the opportunities I'm getting at New Wave and elsewhere are because of Brendan pushing my name around and helping me improve within the ring and outside of the ring. You know, he's just a top guy. Like, you know, he's the man. I said that about Bo as well. They're all the man, you know.
Yeah. But the thing is, you know, a year into your pro wrestling career, and you're facing these top tier talent, and they're kind of giving you these wonderful opportunities and wonderful matches, and kind of putting you over as, you know, one of the stars of the future to watch out for, because they know how extraordinary you are. And as I said, with some of your moves, it's so seamless. It's almost as if you've been practicing them in the ring for a lot longer than you have. So all credit to you. And another match I want to talk to you about, and it's probably your most recent match, was this past Sunday, the back at the banking hall from Slam Masters, the breakout match. Yourself and Luke James, Kurt Atlas, the Brilliance James Ellis, of course, Danny Owens, Big D, Mikey Fine, and Elijah. So a lot of talent there. And I brought up these pictures earlier, but there's yourself. I believe, performing the 450, and an incredible match, what a stacked kind of match to be a part of. But I know that we met at Slam Masters show last October, and I think you were there, possibly as part of the ring crew. I'm not sure, but I don't think you were in action that day. So, I mean, first of all, being in action in that fantastic venue, that banking hall, must have been a thrill. And then to be a part of that breakout match must have been pretty cool for you also.
Yeah, Slam Masters. I was really excited to be able to make my debut there. That, like you said, that venue is just something. What a gorgeous venue! Like, I think that's probably one of the biggest crowds I've wrestled in front of as well. But that's actually that match got changed. So in the end, there was only 6 of us. It was me, James Ellis, Elijah, Luke James, Mikey Fine, and Mark Daniels in the end. And I was the last entrant out. So I should have won. I should be the #1 contender right now for the Slam Masters heavyweight championship. But obviously the Brill stole it, as he always does. I say stole. He worked hard that day. But I was the last one in, came in, I did my stuff, and then the Brill swept me off my feet and just murdered me with his moves, you know, his new finishing move, which is really cool. And then there I went. So in and out for me that night, but it was, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, that Slam Masters is good fun. I hope I get to wrestle there again soon.
By the sounds of it, yeah, most definitely you're going to be a regular fixture, especially with the performance you put in on Sunday. But the Brill, I mean, I want to talk about him next, but before we do, just a few people that have reached out. Now, this person's name won't come up on the screen, but I've checked Facebook to see who it is. A certain gentleman by the name of Terry Hooker. Do you know him? So, hi, Dad. Thanks for watching. Let's see who else we've got here. Right, so, and then we've got watching this via YouTube, 4D Gaming. Shane is such a great pro wrestler. He's going to go very, very far. I echo your sentiments 100% there. And we spoke about the Brill, the Brilliance James Ellis. We had him on the show in January. Fantastic individual, an amazing character, even better wrestler. And you had a match with him, I think it was October last year, for Pro Wrestling Carnage. And it was for his No Mercy Wrestling Combat Legacy Championship. There he is coming out. And there are the two of you before the match and after the match with the handshake. And once again, you always seem to get this bit of recognition, this bit of respect after the match because of the performance that you and your opponent, whoever it might be, put on. And it was no different in the case of yourself versus James Ellis. But I watched that match back. I said to you before we went live just a moment ago, I watched that match back in preparation for today, this afternoon, and it's an incredible match. And like I say, between two, I mean, James has been on the scene a few years. 2022 would have been your first year in the business. This was only last October, and the two of you put on an absolute banger. And I've got to say, watching it kind of again this afternoon, it's got to be up there as one of my kind of top 5 matches of the year. That what you two put on in that match was simply breathtaking. But take us back to that day, take us back to that match, and describe the match to us and what an occasion it was for you.
Yeah, again, very proud of that one, and thank you for the compliment there. But yeah, that match was that was a cool one. I remember at that time, I'd only really wrestled for No Mercy, and I think like Evolution Wrestling I'd done a few shows for, but James Ellis was taken off massive. He took off massively last year, and I saw him as a really high caliber opponent at that time. So like that one was a special one to me. And most of these matches I have a special to me, but that one again was a cool one. So like I think both of our mindsets would just go out there, just put on a banger, have some fun, give the crowd their money's worth, and I think we did that. I like to think we did that. But yeah, that was a cool match, and it was my first experience really, because like I said, I'd only really wrestled for No Mercy Wrestling, where the venue is in my hometown, so I'm instantly like getting reactions without really having to work for them. And then wrestling for Evolution Wrestling as well, where their fans are very passionate, so like they're always reacting. And then my Carnage debut against James. No, sorry, I did one before that at Carnage, but no, that venue was his hometown, so that was my first time experiencing like the crowd, because half the crowd loved him. Then I had some family there and some fans, so half the crowd were there for me. So that was a really fun dynamic. I really enjoyed that match. I got to be honest, it was really good fun. And you know, James is just he's everywhere at the moment. He's top bloke, and a good mate as well. I'm just proud of him. I'm glad he's getting all these opportunities. But yeah, that match was a really good one, I think.
Absolutely, and we're going to have a conversation a bit later about the South Wales scene a little bit later on, and how it's kind of this fantastic new crop of talent, including yourself and James Ellis and one or two others that we will mention, has kind of come into the forefront, come into the prominence. But now this interview, for those kind of eagle-eyed viewers of mine, this interview was meant to have taken place 24 hours earlier, but Shay sent me a message. He said, "Johners, can we do it on the Tuesday instead? Because on the Monday, I'm going to be doing a seminar with this guy here, Shah Samuels." You were wondering where I was going to take this then, but I got there in the end. And last night, 24 hours ago, you was there at the New Wave Academy with Shah Samuels and a lot of the trainees. I recognised a few there already, including yourself sitting down on the ring. But that must have been a great experience. And of course, Shah Samuels, hot off of his WWE NXT UK contract, and being one of the hottest agents on the UK scene in 2023, getting the chance to have a seminar with him. That must have been a fun evening for you yesterday.
Oh, yeah, a lot of fun. And he was doing two seminars. He was doing the beginners ones and the advanced one, and I just did both. And so I was there. I was at New Wave Academy all day yesterday, having fun. It was hard work. He put us through our paces, but I love going to seminars. I got to be honest, and that one in particular, again, Charles Samuel is such. I don't need to say anything about him. Like, such a wealth of knowledge. Obviously, I mean, he's going out to Florida coaching in the PC. But yeah, I learned a lot yesterday. I had a lot of fun. Just another example of all the things that Brendan is doing for New Wave Academy and for trainees and for the South Wales scene in general. But yeah, again, what a fun seminar. I really enjoyed it. Hard work, but learned a lot. Definitely took a lot away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I spoke to Brendan a few weeks ago, as I said on the show. We spoke about all the guests that he's had down to the New Wave Academy for these seminars, the likes of James Mason and Eddie Dennis and Sunshine Machine and so many others. And of course, Shah Samuels. But you've attended a fair few of these seminars. I think you've probably attended one or two seminars for No Mercy Wrestling as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, you must have a lot of kind of light bulb moments when you are in front of some of these guests, some of these trainers, experienced pros, former WWE stars. And you must go away from each of these seminars, each of these training sessions thinking, like a whole new world has opened up, an entirely different perspective on the business sometimes. And like I say, you've created this wealth of knowledge and experience in such a short space of time. But every time you go to one of these seminars must be just an incredible experience for you.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And like going off what you said there, as an example, the match with Nico this coming weekend at No Mercy, the way I looked at that match before the seminar with Shah Samuels and the way I'm looking at it after, completely different. Like I had an image of how I wanted and expected. No, sorry, the way I envisioned. That's what I'm. That's the word I needed. But the way I envisioned the match going, and now after that seminar, my mindset for that match is completely shifted. Yeah, so 1,000,000%, like you said, I'm just trying to take on everything that I can at all these seminars and just try and what's the word, use everything that I'm learning in all the matches and all my experiences. So, yeah, but yeah, that was a good seminar, and this match hopefully will be a lot better because of it. So
yeah, trying to soak up all the knowledge, and really kind of take all the information in. And a few of the people that have been in touch, watching us live via YouTube, Daniel Ellis, who is your inspiration for your style of wrestling? So as we've established, your wrestling style is very athletic, very dynamic, very, very exciting. But do you have any specific inspirations back from when you were, a younger wrestling fan, or maybe inspirations from people you work with and hang around with in the business nowadays?
Yeah, I take bits from everywhere. One huge inspiration for me growing up, when I was a young teenager, was John Morrison. I remember I used to think he was the coolest thing going. I used to have we all had our little wrestling action figures and stuff. I had about 6 John Morrisons. I thought he was, and I think maybe that's because he obviously did a lot of parkour within his style as well. So he was somebody that I looked up to a lot. Like the obvious one, Shawn Michaels. I watched a lot of Shawn Michaels. I thought he was the coolest thing. Rey Mysterio. Then more on the scene now, Nico Angelo is one. Mark Andrews, definitely massively as well. Will Ospreay is probably my biggest inspiration. I just think he's a genius. But I take bits from everywhere, and sometimes I'll just be watching, just whether it's a clip on Twitter or I've gone out my way to put on a match from a particular promotion or a bigger company. I'll see something small and I'll take bits and maybe I'll use it in one match. And sometimes it works really well. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then sometimes it sticks. So at the moment, because I'm so new, although I'm getting around the South Wales scene quite quickly, I'm still trying to try as much as I can, try as many different things as I can to see, because like I said, I might see something and think, oh, I'll give that a go and I'll try it, and it's everybody reacts and it's the coolest thing ever. But then other things, I think, I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was this cool thing I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I tried it in the match with Brendan and nobody made a peep, and I was like, yeah, well, maybe it's the way I did it. But I'm just taking bits from everywhere, and I'm just trying to have fun with it and experiment and just enjoy wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just thank you very much, Daniel Ellis. I've had a ton of questions come through during the course of this interview, so I will try and get to all of you. So please stay tuned. I promise I will try my best. But the last time we saw each other, the last time that we spoke was in the Tram Shed in Cardiff, and it was for a Rev Pro show, and you were there as part of the ring crew. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is not only were you part of the ring crew, and it was a fantastic show, some of the biggest stars, not just from the UK, but in the world. And I mean, I'm just going to mention one name. Will Ospreay was there, in my opinion, the best wrestler in the world at the moment, and has been for the last few years. But I think in the second match of the night, I think it was Yota Tsuji versus Dan Maloney, and there was yourself and Alex Vaughan that got involved after the match. Now, Dan Maloney was not a happy chappy after the match for whatever reason, and he's got his eyes firmly set on the Rev Pro Championship. I think in fact, he was calling out Will Ospreay, to be honest with you. And he got a little bit tasty in the ring because you got involved in the action. I think yourself and Alex both got dropped on your heads at the kind of the fury of Dan Maloney. But to be even kind of in the ring with Dan Maloney on such a special occasion with such a stacked card, that must have been a pretty cool moment for you. I'm not talking about the bump. The bump must have sucked, but to be a part of that action must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, that was very, very sick night. Not just, obviously the show was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I was obviously there to crew, and to help out and just be around the show, because again, such a cool show. And we were told that we needed to come and help the situation, because Dan Maloney didn't want to move from the ring and he's calling out Will Ospreay. So they came, of all people, you had like Toby Valentine there. He's a big lad. Like, he's helping out. He's a big lad. But instead, they approached me and Alex Vaughan, two smallest guys there. And he's coming to help us move Dan Maloney out the ring. And we're like, oh, yeah. Puffed our chests out. Yeah, no problem. Whatever you say. Get in the ring. Alex takes a big boot to the mouth. And next thing I know, I'm upside down on Dan Maloney's shoulder, wiggling my arms about. And then I was sleeping a few seconds later. But again, yeah, in all seriousness, a lot of fun. It was very exciting, very cool. Like, usually with those sorts of things, like, to be involved with like Rev Pro or, for example, TNT this weekend with their belt on the line, it's usually a lot of pressure. But with that, those small little things like going in the ring and getting beat up by Dan Maloney at Rev Pro, because this I didn't feel much pressure. It was just more like excitement. It was just like, oh, okay, I don't have to remember this. I don't have to do this. I don't have to just go in there and get beat up. And then all of a sudden he picks me up. I didn't expect that, but it was, again, just very exciting, very cool. Very cool to be involved with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you're part of the ring crew on such a show, and as I mentioned, some of the biggest names in the world were on there. Big Damo, who was my guest on the show last week, was there in the main event against Will Ospreay. Mentioned Yota Tsuji and Dan Maloney. Obviously, the Greedy Souls were there defending their Rev Pro Tag Team Championships. Harrison Bennett versus Robbie X. So the biggest and the best names, and Francesco Akira versus Leon Slater. So another tremendous match. And when you're watching from the sidelines, you can't help but kind of soak in the experience and soak in what is actually being, thrown at your eyeballs. And with yourself, obviously, you still consider yourself a trainee, still very new to the business, despite the fantastic matches you've had in front of the world's best wrestlers, Shane. That must be a learning experience that you just cannot buy.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. The opportunities to I try and crew as much as I can at as many different places as I can, because obviously it's so beneficial in so many different ways. Not only you getting out there more, but you being around wrestling more. But for me, as much as I learn crewing, I find that I can't quite, like, if I watching Damo wrestle Will Ospreay, I can't take myself out of that to study that. I can't study that. I'm just sat. I'm supposed to be crewing. I'm there in the corner, like, I'm jumping. I'm like, I can't. I found when I'm at live shows, I can't study. I just end up being a fan in that corner, just enjoying it. I can't study when I'm crewing or at shows. It's just enjoyment.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned earlier, before your debut last March, in 2020 during lockdown, and even 2021, I've seen the videos of you kind of practicing some moves in your back garden or kind of out in the open, practicing your moves off of fences, for example, and things like that. And I'm guessing that those were probably before you started your official training, just as you were kind of in the experimental phase, dare I say it, your backyard phase. But you obviously had desires very early on to want to be a pro wrestler, and that was kind of like the start of your journey, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely. Since I was like, God, as long as I can remember, I've always just wanted to be a wrestler. And like, I think I'm lucky enough to have such a supportive family and supportive parents that, like, it was never really questioned. I feel like, maybe in a lot of households, you have like kids saying they want to be wrestlers, and the parents kind of like, well, go to school. My parents were always just like, yeah, cool. And I was just like, yeah. But my dad is a huge wrestling fan as well. He has like Undertaker tattoo on his arm. He loves it. So I always grew up around it. And I remember specifically when I was really young, I don't know how, maybe 4 or 5. My dad tells me this story all the time, so it's probably why it sticks in my head. But he was always watching wrestling, and weirdly, completely different to the way I wrestle. What hooked me on wrestling early on was watching Kane. I don't know why. Maybe it's because my dad watched a lot of horror films, and at that time it was when I was little. It was when Kane had just been unmasked, so it was like bald Kane, and when he different colored eyes, stuff like that. And I loved him. I thought he was the coolest thing. But yeah, as I started to get older, and I'm not the biggest or tallest. And at that time, when I was a bit younger, I never really was watching anything outside of WWE. It was always just WWE that I was watching. So I kind of hit like 11, 12, and I was kind of like, I'm not going to be a wrestler. There's nothing, I'm not in America. I can't go to WWE. I'm not as big as Triple H and John Cena and some of the guys I grew up watching. And then I kind of I think that was the only time that I'd really switched my mind a little bit, and I started trying to think about other stuff. But then I discovered the infamous clip of Will Ospreay and Ricochet from New Japan doing that. You know what I'm talking about. But I saw that, and I was like, wow. And then I think maybe a year later, I'd seen the United Kingdom tournament, the first one for the UK Championship, and I remember seeing Mark Andrews in it, and it was my first time seeing Mark Andrews. And not only was he Welsh, but he was small. He did all the flippy stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe I can be a wrestler. And then I got, that I think that was around the time I started really pushing myself, going out and doing all these flips. And in hindsight, maybe I should have waited until I was training with professionals, because I ended up hurting myself a lot. I broke my tailbone 3 times. But yeah, I remember I reached out to Dragon Pro quite a bit, and they were always like, well, you need to be 18. And then annoyingly, I turned 18 during lockdown. So I and then after lockdown, Dragon Pro didn't come back for a long time, so it was just finding different places. But yeah, doing all that, I don't think I'd change it, because I think when I did eventually get in the ring, although I didn't really know what I was doing, I thought I did. I thought I'd go in and be like, oh yeah. I didn't have a clue, but I do think all of that I had done, I think things came a lot quicker to me than they would to maybe other people, and so I wouldn't change it. But yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think even before you made your official debut, and this is possibly back end of 2021, and you mentioned it earlier, there's video of you out there on your socials of you doing 450s onto crash mats, and I think there's one clip where you're doing a certain drill in a wrestling ring, and you actually go outside the ring, run up the wall, flip back into the ring, and all sorts of crazy stuff. So obviously naturally athletic, despite the various tailbone injuries that you've suffered during those years. And then, of course, you made your debut, like I say, at the very first No Mercy show, which also coincided with your debut match in the pre-show Rumble. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is possibly a photo from that match. But I did also read a social post attached to that photo saying that you didn't think you'd ever get to that moment of having your debut match because of the pandemic, because of lockdown, because of all of the challenges and obstacles in your way. And that kind of made it all worthwhile to eventually get in the ring. Even if it was for a pre-show Rumble, that kind of made it all worthwhile to you, didn't it?
Yeah. I'd obviously, everybody struggled in lockdown. But I went through like a really difficult time. My whole family did. We had a lot of losses in the family just before lockdown, and then lockdown happened, and and I got to a point during lockdown, and just after, before I started training, where I my social anxiety just built up. Like I'm quite a shy guy anyway, but it was to a point I couldn't go down the shop. I could, and then eventually I can't remember why, but just one morning I just decided, right, I'm gonna start training. But yeah, that battle royal. I remember on the day there was a lot of people. Like I was overthinking it, but I was like really excited, and I was trying to plan this, that, and the other. And a few people were like, "Oh, Shane, it's just a battle royal. It's literally just," and like I understand what they mean now, but at the time I was like, that was it for me. That was everything that had happened in lockdown and all the struggles that I had gone through, and my family had gone through, and like all of that. It felt like something good was finally happening, sort of thing. And another cool story about that is my mother also suffers really badly with social anxiety, and she hadn't really left the house for before lockdown, because she had lost quite a few family members as well. But she kind of isolated herself, and she hadn't left the house for maybe 3-4 years outside of seeing family. And when I first got told I was in that battle royal, she was like, "Oh, I'm coming," and I was like, and then she came, and she, the battle royal was cool, and that experience was really fun. But to see her in the crowd, socializing with other people, and just smiling and being that was really cool. But I remember, like, as soon as I got backstage from that battle royal, I broke up. I was bawling, crying. I'm not afraid to admit it. That was that was it for me. And then I came back. I came back out to crew the rest of the show, and I saw my mother, and then I started crying again. She was crying. There's kids walking past. They're like, "Oh, can you sign this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But yeah, I've come a long way since then. I'm really proud of that entire thing and the growth and stuff. But
yeah, it was the start of your journey, and this kind of kick-started your journey, the War of the Cobras. Now, if I'm not mistaken, is this the Iron Cobra tournament? Is that the lineup there?
Yes, yeah, that's most of it.
Yeah, so I think those are the combatants in the ring there for the Iron Cobra tournament, if I'm not mistaken. And your first match was against Tom Ferriman. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was possibly your first or one of your very first singles matches in this very tournament. So that must have been a pretty cool experience for you as well, against Tom, who I think has been in the business maybe a little bit longer than yourself. But to be part of that tournament, to be part of that match against Tom, that must have been a bit of a thrill for you, especially being your first or maybe your first or second ever singles match.
Yeah, the Iron Cobra tournament was really exciting. And it was with all the people that I'd been training with at that point. So it just felt like we were all getting in there and being able to like wrestle with each other. It was really exciting. And Tom in particular, I remember when I started at No Mercy, he was one of the people that really kind of like was really kind with me, really patient with me, helped me out as much as he couldn't do enough for me. Such a nice bloke. So to get that match with him was really cool. If I was to line up everybody in that tournament, I don't think I could have picked a better person to start off with. And for a first match, it's very planned, but I'm very proud of that for a first match. I thought it was, I had a lot of fun. It was really good fun, that match. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And you progressed through to the next stage against this guy here, Adam Carter. And in my various conversations, my various interviews this year, I've mentioned Adam Carter a hell of a lot because he's a big dude. He's a strong dude. Reminds me a lot of maybe a Jake Hager or a Kurt Angle. But a lot of raw power there, a lot of fantastic moves. And speaking of raw power, there's you with the big guy Adam Carter up on your shoulders there, possibly for a powerbomb move. But let's say another fun opponent, another great match of yours, and you progressed again. But any fond memories of your match against Adam? I think in what was maybe the semi-final of the Iron Cobra tournament.
Yeah. First off, Adam's just a plank. You know, he's gonna hate me saying that. But no, that again, I think that was my first experience of like the dynamic that I've been able to play around with so much since, of like the bigger, smaller sort of thing. So that was my first like taste of that. And it was with Adam, who again, you know, good mate. And yeah, that photo of me power bombing him, it's a bit of a cheating photo, because I posted that because it looked like I was just powering him up. But in reality, I was just picking him up off the second rope and just. But it looked like I was powering up, so I was like, "Oh, that's a good post, that is."
Still no easy feat there, but no easy feat. He's a big guy, but yeah, exactly. And but you did overcome once again. There seems to be a bit of a theme in this part of the conversation. After the match, Kenny Mantra came out, and you were obviously going to be facing him in the final of the Iron Cobra tournament, the first ever Iron Cobra tournament at Send It to the Internet. And not only were you in the final against Kenny Mantra, another wonderful South Wales talent, but you main evented the show. And obviously, they also crowned their first Combat Legacy champion of No Mercy during that show. And that didn't even main event it. Who main evented it? Yourself and Kenny Mantra. You overcame, you won the match. You became the first ever Iron Cobra tournament winner. And there you are. After the match, I think, looking a little bit worse for wear, but very, very happy with yourself. Considering you're only months into your pro wrestling career, this would have been August last year. Did you even think that you'd have those sort of opportunities so early on, and main eventing what was, you know, a very well received show of No Mercy with a stacked card, and there you were, kind of topping it off, winning the tournament?
Yeah. To answer that question, I did not expect any of that so early. It's quite surreal to think back on, and I don't think I've actually sat down and thought about it all properly for a while. But that was very cool. We didn't find out we were main event until the day of the show, and I think it was like just before doors opened. They were like, "Oh yeah, your main event," and it was like, "Oh, okay." I that was, yeah, added a lot of pressure. But I think that match will always be that'll always be special to me. I think no matter what I do from here, I think that'll always be one that I look back on, because to me, when I won that sword and I won the Iron Cobra tournament, and it was all after that match with Kenny Mantra, that's when I feel like my career really started to pop off a bit, because I started getting bookings elsewhere, and I, all off the back of clips from that match. So like it was a cool match, and again, Kenny Mantra is a good friend. And funny enough, just this past weekend on Saturday, we were a tag team up in Evolution Wrestling, main eventing for the tag team titles, where we got beat up and lost because he took the pin though. It's his fault.
Oh, but another great guy, and really enjoyed speaking to him when I was at No Mercy last. And let's just see where we are here. You said that, from that match, from that tournament, winning the Iron Cobra tournament, your career really took off. I think one match that will really demonstrate that, and a match you're very, very proud of, I'm sure. Another South Wales talent, Jay Joshua, and a guy that I've got to know reasonably well over the last couple of years, especially when he's appeared at Wrestle Carnival, where I I do a lot of backstage interviews for. But once again, New Wave Wrestling giving you a fantastic opportunity against, he's not really an up-and-comer. Jay Joshua's been on the scene for a while now and really making his name as an established single star. And like I say, I think that Jay Joshua certainly put you through your paces. Once again, a bigger guy, a hard-hitting guy, more of a striker, more of a a grappler as well. How was that match for you?
Yeah. Again, like you said, he didn't take it easy on me, give me a battering. But yeah, I really enjoyed that match. Really enjoyed working with Jay Joshua. And as such a lovely guy as well. But I'd like to wrestle him again now, because I think at the time when I had wrestled him, it was maybe my 9th match, 9th, 10th, maybe 11th, around that mark. So like I feel like if I were to wrestle him now, it could be a lot. We could do some really cool stuff. Have a really, really sick match. Not to say that one wasn't, but again, just another huge opportunity so early on. A lot of people wrestle and work for a long time before they get an opportunity to wrestle somebody like Jay Joshua. So the fact that I was given it so early, very, very cool. And yeah, it was a fun match. And Jay Joshua hits very hard.
Yeah, he does. But like I say, so No Mercy or New Wave, if you're watching, book the rematch, and I'm sure that you're going to be in for a banger again. And the first time, now full transparency, the first time I actually got to see you wrestle in the flesh was at a No Mercy show, their Halloween show at the back end of October last year. No Mercy, it was a Cobra Kyber Halloween, and you were tagging with the ever wonderful, ever entertaining Oliver Sudden, the best name in pro wrestling, against Bowl-O-Rama. Now, I've recently had Bowl-O-Rama on the show, and that guy there on the far left-hand side, LK Messenger, whatever happened to him. But that was a lot of fun, and it kicked off the show at No Mercy, Cobra Kyber Halloween. There's a little picture from that match. But an entertaining match. You've got a bit of comedy there with the bowling ball spots, and Oliver being one of the most entertaining guys in British wrestling in present time. And yourself, and you got to do, let's say, all of your tricks, all of your dives, show off all of your athletic ability, and you won the match for the team. But once again, I've got to say, going up against a team like Bowl-O-Rama, and you probably haven't been in too many tag matches up to that point. So a bit of a different experience for you, maybe taking you out of your element slightly, but being there with Oliver as well, and a tremendous tag team such as Bowl-O-Rama, that must have been a fun experience for you.
Yeah. I think that was my first tag team match.
Really? Wow.
First or second, I think that might have been the first. But yeah, for that reason, I remember being very nervous about that match. But it ended up being a lot of fun. Again, like I think that was maybe one of my first tastes of like the face dynamic, and especially comedy wrestling. I'd never really done that, and obviously being in there with All of a Sudden, and a hint of it with Bowl-O-Rama as well. Yeah, it was just a fun match. It was really fun, and obviously, I'm friends with all three of those guys, and Splits McPins, also occasional coach at New Wave, who I still learn a lot from to this day. Same with Oliver, taught me a lot early on training at No Mercy. So yeah, it was quite cool experience to be in there with those. And yeah, I got to do all my tricks in my hometown venue. So yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of people that have been in touch, and although his name won't pop up on screen, certain Adam Carter's been in touch. Plank, cheers, Shane. So proud of you, Shane, and how far he's come and where he's going, 100%. And we've had a few more. Let's have a quick look now. Here we go. Now, this is actually from the head honcho, Chris Bevan. Your favourite No Mercy match so far. So thank you, Bevan. And thank you for the interview a couple of weeks ago. Really, really fun interview I had with Bevan, the Bastard Son, a couple of weeks ago on Wrestling with Jonas. But he sends us a question. Your favourite No Mercy match so far? Have you got a favourite or any favourites that certainly stand out to you?
I'd probably have to say the Kenny Mantra match. Like I said, that one will always be special. I think that's probably my favorite No Mercy match. But I have a funny feeling that's going to be top this weekend. So maybe it'll be Nico Angelo after this weekend. So we'll see. But currently, I'd probably say the Kenny Mantra one for the finals of the tournament.
Yeah, good shout there for sure. And I think this is one of the guys behind Pro Wrestling Carnage. Daniel Thomas is watching us. You beating Dale Johnson for the Carnage Outbreak Championship on the 26th of March. How do you think it will go? So you do have a big match coming up in Pro Wrestling Carnage towards the end of the month. Only 12 days away against Dale Johnson. Any thoughts about that one? Obviously, you've got a big match coming up this coming weekend against Nico, and then the following weekend against Dale Johnson.
Yeah. So I haven't won a belt yet. I'm yet to hold a championship. So if I don't win this weekend against Nico and I don't walk away with that TNT championship, then I think I'm going to be even extra motivated going in there with Dale. Dale's, not the guy, he's the Outbreak champion. And I've wrestled him a few times in tags, and I've never beat him in a tag match. But I think I'm going to walk away from that match as the new Outbreak champion. I think there's a good chance of that. I'm going to shoot Dale Johnson right in his smug little mouth. I think that's my plan.
There we go. That's going to be another awesome match. Two fantastic talents there. That's going to be a great match. And like I say, it could be your first championship bit of gold. It could be your second as well. Who knows? You could be Shane Hooker 2 belts come the end of it all. Let's see where we are here. And one of the match I want to kind of highlight, another one of your kind of favourite matches of last year would be this one here. Once again, New Wave Academy, New Wave Wrestling, Billy Hayes, Harrison Bennett, and yourself in a 3-way match there. That must have been pretty cool. Recently had Harrison Bennett on the show. At the moment, he's recuperating from an injury that he suffered at the Cardiff Rev Pro show. So we hope that you get well soon, Harrison. We're sending our best wishes to you. But that must have been another thrill ride for you. And Billy Hayes, another guy that's coming up in the scene. Harrison Bennett, the experienced pro there, but still very, very young in his mid-20s. What can you remember about that one?
I'd say that's probably one of, if not the coolest match I've been a part of. It was just cool. It was really, it was my first triple threat, and obviously Harrison Bennett,
He's the man.
He is, and he's when you think of like the South Wales wrestling scene in the last few years, you think of Harrison Bennett with the All Wales Championship before he lost it to Brendan. So that was obviously very cool. And then Billy Hayes is somebody I personally think, when I look at Billy Hayes and you see him wrestle, he's just sick. I think that's the word to describe him. He's just such a cool look, such a cool style of wrestling. He's very unique. So, very fun dynamic. And interestingly, with our match, there's a fun story attached to that one, I'd say, because we were supposed to be on in the second half of the show, maybe 5th, I want to say. But so originally we were put on for 3rd, and then we got switched to 6th, but nobody told the announcer that. So we were backstage, and Harrison Bennett was still in his normal street clothes, and me and Billy had just happened to be changed, or mostly changed, and they started announcing the triple threat. And we were like, what do we do? And then we were told, no, you got to go out. So Harrison Bennett not being changed, Billy and I had to make our entrances and try and drag them out as much as we could. And then Harrison still wasn't ready. So we had to try and like get across to the people doing the music to stop Harrison's music. And we cut a few very bad on the fly promos and then had a very fun and exciting match. So that'll always be one that'll stick to me as well. I think it was a lot of fun, that triple threat was.
Oh, mate. A certain Oliver Sudden is watching us via Facebook. Hey, Oliver. Love you, Shane. You've come so far, and I couldn't be prouder. When are we having this match then? So that could be a tasty one. And I know that you spoke about the face dynamic with yourself and Oliver versus Boulderama back in last October for No Mercy. That would be a tasty match. Obviously, you're going to have the big man, little man, or big man, smaller man dynamic like you're used to. But that could be a tasty one. Any thoughts on a possible match against Oliver?
That'd be different. That'd be a different one. I think it'd be a very fun match. I think it'd be very fun, very interesting. I don't know if I go along with Oliver's shenanigans or if I just try and like hit him with that big drop kick and spark him out. I don't know. I think that'd be a fun one. I'd definitely be interested in doing that. That'd be good fun.
100%. And thank you, Oliver. And watching us live via YouTube, the future Let's Play. Are you looking forward to facing other new wave talents such as Kurt Atlas, Alex Vaughan, Aluna Blue? So I mean, we spoke a bit off air, and we spoke about this kind of new crop of tremendous talent that's coming through the South Wales scene, whether training at No Mercy or training at New Wave. You kind of had that new crop of talent, such as some of them names, yourself, Kenny Mantra, and one or two others, Dale Johnson, and then the more experienced pros on the scene like Brendan White, Elijah, Bolarama, and then the returning crop of talent back to the South Wales scene, such as Mark Andrews, the Flash Morgans, the Danny Lunas, the Wild Boars. South Wales is a real hotbed at the moment. It always was a hotbed, but it kind of took a bit of a dip. I think 2022 and 2023 has really brought it back up to prominence and back to where it truly belongs. And you're part of that rise now. You're part of that new crop. But first of all, answer the question there from the future Let's Play. Any new wave, new talents that you're potentially looking to get into the ring with? Are you there, Shane? This is live. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
You can hear us.
Yes.
That's cool. Whoa, my heart went for a second there. But this is live, and worse has happened. But just to answer the future Let's Play, like I say, there's some tremendous names there in his question. Kurt Atlas, Alex Vaughan, Aluna Blue, and others that you know very well. Any that you'd fancy facing in a new wave ring in the future?
Yes, definitely. Those three names particularly, Kurt Atlas, I think the day I started training before No Mercy over at All Style, he was one of the first people I met in wrestling, and I've always thought a lot of Kurt. I'd love to wrestle him. He'd probably bend my back in two pieces, but I'd love to wrestle Kurt Atlas. As for Alex Vaughan, I have beaten Alex Vaughan twice in single competition. When we worked up in Comic-Con, I beat him there, and I beat him again in London for EWE. I really enjoy wrestling Alex. He's a good mate, Then Aluna Blue, I'd love to wrestle. I think that'd be really fun and exciting, and again different. I think we could have a really, really cool match. And then to go off what you were saying with the South Wales scene, yeah, it's just it's on fire at the moment, and it's quite surreal to hear you say that, like, I'm part of the new crop of talent. That's really cool to me. But it's on fire. I don't think it's ever been as hot as it is right now.
No.
So yeah, it's sick for everyone, for the fans, the wrestlers. Everybody's getting.
Exciting times, exciting times. And Oscar Williams is watching us via YouTube. Which wrestler, past or present, would you have a pint with? So I don't know if this has ever cropped your mind, passed your mind, or any thoughts on any body, past or present, any wrestlers that you'd like to go and have a drink with, maybe, Shane?
I'm a terrible drinker. So oh, let me think. Maybe I feel like maybe like a Shawn Michaels. Sit down, have a pint with him. I'd probably learn a lot. Or if I'm looking to have a laugh, maybe I'd just go out with BXB. Maybe I'd go out with Brendan. Have a pint with Brendan. That'd be funny. Yeah, maybe something like that.
Fantastic. Thank you for your question. Let's see if there's any more here. Ashley Hain watching us live via YouTube. Who's your dream opponent, dead or alive? So do you have like a Cody Rhodes style tick box wish list of opponents that you'd like to face, dead or alive? Any promotion from any country around the world, but who would you say?
There's a lot, but I'm going to try and just say the one. It'd probably be Will Ospreay. I can't say how much I've been inspired by Will Ospreay. So that'd probably be the dream opponent. There's also other names like on the scene and further that but I think that's probably the quick answer.
Yeah, 100%. And we've got Richie watching us live via YouTube, wanting to see yourself and James Ellis go at it for the New Wave Championship. Please book it. So that'll be a pretty cool match to see yourself and the Brill go at it for the New Wave Championship for sure. Let's just now I want to talk about this here. It's the gear, the jacket, the sword, the everything. Just look at this guy. Just oozes just awesomeness. And now tell us a bit about the gear and the sword and the inspiration behind it, because I've seen some videos of you kind of doing some moves backstage with the sword, and are you looking to incorporate that into your entrance? But talk a bit about the jackets and the gear first of all, and how you kind of incorporated the sword into all of this, and what it all means. I know that I introduced you at the top of the show as the Iron Cobra, but is that like part of a developing character or part of a developing gimmick for yourself?
I think my focus has been on improving in the ring and trying to be as good a wrestler as I can be. So for me, the character, I think I didn't put too much work into thinking of like character stuff, and I think that suffered a little bit. So one thing that I think is probably top 3 most important things in wrestling is the look and gear, and I think the jacket and the sword, I think that adds a lot of character without me necessarily going out of my way to think of like a big elaborate character, which I am trying to work on and add more layers. And I think now that I'm still obviously focusing and training hard within the ring, but I think now I'm at a point where the character stuff is definitely I'm starting to look into a lot more. But the jacket is a sort of fun story, because I wanted something that was unique to me, and I was trying to. I couldn't think of a way that I could get across my vision of what I wanted it to look like and how So I just thought, I found this jacket online, and it was plain black, and I was very good at art in school. I did A levels for art, so I bought the jacket, and I had a decent idea of like where I wanted it to go, and I just bought a load of sewing equipment and fabric paint and etc. and it took me about maybe 3 months to do that jacket that you just had on the screen. Yeah, it took me a long time, and I started off with an idea. I'd maybe do a bit to the back and maybe a bit to the bottom, and add this there, that there, and then I just ended up getting very, very, very carried away. But I think I personally think it looks very cool, and
it really does.
Yeah, it definitely helps a lot where I lack in terms of like the character department, and not necessarily like, for example, James Ellis, who has a lot going for him in that kind of in that sense. He has like the brilliance, good as gold. He has the character, and I don't have that, and that's something I'm trying to find and experimenting with. But I think the jacket in the meantime adds a lot to make me feel like this. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It adds a lot to the package. And the sword. When did you start incorporating the sword? Was it because of the Iron Cobra tournament or something else?
So I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan, like stupid. Outside of wrestling, that is when I was little, I wanted to like, it was either wrestling or I wanted to do motion capture for a Mortal Kombat game. And so like swords and flips and all that stuff. So I wanted to try and incorporate it. And then I suggested, because I suggested maybe we use a sword as the prize for the Iron Cobra tournament. And then I'll work hard to win it. And then beat Kenny Mantra. And then, and since then I've started bringing some of my different swords in, because I've got like 26. I've got way too many. Yeah, I'm playing around with using them for the entrances and trying to incorporate that into my style and the way I move and etc. But yeah, that was something I wanted to do from the beginning. So
yeah, and I don't know if you realise, you might want to have a word with Oliver Sudden, but I think during your match with James Ellis at Pro Wrestling Carnegie, described your jacket as a £2.50 purchase from ASOS. But I'm sure it couldn't be further from the truth. And the way that you kind of added your own kind of touch to it over them 3 months certainly makes it look like $1 million. I don't know about £2.50, Oliver. Have a word with him, Shane. Have a word with him. But as we kind of get towards the end of this fantastic interview with yourself on Wrestling with Johners, we've obviously spoken about a lot of your highlights, a lot of your fantastic opportunities and opponents over not even a year, which is incredible to think. But have you got any other highlights that are special to you, or moments, or moments of your career that you're particularly proud of, even if we've discussed them already? What really stands out as being some of your favorite moments or highlights, or your proudest moments of the last 12 months?
Like, to start off, that getting into the No Mercy Battle Royal early on, like that was a huge thing to me. Then obviously being involved with the Iron Cobra tournament and then winning it, that was very special. I'm proud of that and what I did in that tournament. And I think since then, debuting for New Wave was something that I was very proud of. And there's a few matches, like the match with Brendan, the match with Wild Boar, the triple threat with Billy Hayes and Harrison Bennett. I'm probably forgetting a good bunch. There's a lot of matches that I'm really proud of. But yeah, I think those early ones, I think when I was still very like new, those ones felt really special at that time. And since then, I'd say probably the match with Wild Boar was one that really, punched me in the heart, sort of thing. That felt really, I was really proud of that one. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And like I say, really, really proud, as a lot of your family members and friends have joined us tonight. Really proud of what you've achieved in such a short period of time, and your future is going to be incredible for sure. But what are your kind of plans or goals for the rest of 2023? Do you have any short-term or maybe long-term plans, things you want to accomplish, maybe people you want to wrestle, promotions you want to wrestle for? If you haven't got any, then you don't need to tell us. But anything on the horizon or things that you're looking forward to achieving this year or next?
Yeah, so at the beginning of this year, I said to myself, I just want to, by the end of this year, be a lot better. Like, it sounds cheesy, but my goal was just to improve as a wrestler, and just I wanted to be a better wrestler coming out of the year. And that's not to say that like there's a lot of really cool promotions that I'd love to wrestle for, and a lot of wrestlers I'd love to wrestle. The New Wave Championship, that's something I'd maybe by the end of the year, if I get a shot against James, that's something that's big on the bucket list. There's a lot of cool promotions around that maybe I'd like to get involved with, and I've got some cool debuts coming up as well. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming up, and hopefully I just improve and keep getting these huge opportunities, and I can keep doing well by them. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Absolutely. And just a few people that have reached out during the course of this interview. Once again, the name's not come up, but this Facebook user said, absolute legend, both in and out of the ring, a true star in the making. Keep up the brilliant hard work there, Shane. So completely echo the sentiments there. For any of my fans or followers that want to reach out to you and say hi, want to learn more about Shane Hooker, maybe see some of your footage, or just reach out and kind of have a conversation, or follow you on social media, where can they do so? And if it helps, I've got a little ticker that's running along the bottom of the screen. So the floor is yours, my friend. Where can we reach out and learn more about Shane Hooker?
Yeah, so on Instagram and Twitter, I am just Shane KR Hooker. And then on Facebook, it's just Shane Hooker. I do have a wrestling page, but I don't go on it often. So,
yeah. And any plans for merch? Any thoughts about merch in the future? I know that you had some, but with older designs. Any plans for something in the pipeline for the future?
Yeah, I'm looking into stuff, and hopefully in the next few months, maybe towards the back end of the year, I'll have something out. But yeah. Not immediate, but yeah.
There we go. And what is immediate, what is just around the corner, is this here. We started the podcast with it. We're going to end the interview with it. No Mercy Wrestling, Sweep the Leg, Sunday the 19th of March. And there you are. You're going to be going one-on-one with Nico Angelo for his TNT Extreme Wrestling Ultra X Championship. And wouldn't it be nice if that bout went home with you when all said and done on Sunday? But Shane Hooker, if you've got a final message, a final word for people watching us tonight, your fans, your followers, family members, anybody that supported you over the last year or however long your journey has been in total, but any final words from yourself?
Just a massive thank you to everyone who supported me and taking a chance on me, and giving me opportunities. And like I said, I didn't expect any of this to happen as quick as it has. And like, thank you to you for having me on. But in general, just like, thank you to everyone. And hopefully we can keep this ball rolling and keep doing some cool things.
100%. Can't wait to see you perform in the ring against Nico on Sunday. Like I say, real superstar for the future. It's been a pleasure talking to you for the last 90 minutes. But Shane Hooker, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonas. Thank you for having me on. I'll see you on Sunday.
See you Sunday.